Alright, so what we're going to be talking about in this video is a terminal, and I guess the first question is, what do I mean by a terminal and why is it important? In Linux especially, Apple as well, we have the operating system that we talked about in the last video that controls all of the hardware in the computer, and then we have what's called a graphical user interface that runs on top of it, and that's the part that you actually see. And it's a program just like every other program that's on the computer, but its primary purpose is to display things like checkboxes and fields to type in, pictures, images. And so you can kind of think about the operating system as one piece of code that's job is to talk to the hardware, like the monitor and the other things. Then there's a GUI, a graphical user interface, that runs on top of the operating system or in the operating system, and its job is to handle the desktop, the thing that when you click the start button or when you click on the Apple menu or whatever operating system you happen to be running in. Now in our class we're going to be running in Linux, but it works the same way. We have the Linux operating system that is actually in control of the hardware, and then we have a graphical environment that runs on top of it. The really cool thing about Linux though is that you actually can run different things, different desktops inside of Linux operating system. So for example, we're running the Raspberry Pi operating system over here, and it has a slightly different look and feel to another application or another Linux operating system that may be running GNOME, which is one of the popular operating systems, or KDE, or a number of other ones that exist. There's probably hundreds of different types of desktops that exist in Linux. Now, it's probably new to you because in Windows, because Microsoft writes Windows and Microsoft is in control of all the code, there's only one desktop. The desktop looks the same on every single Windows computer, where in Linux, because everybody's writing this thing for free, they wake up one morning and say, you know, I don't really like the way GNOME looks. I want to write my own desktop that does all of this cool stuff that I think's cool. And so they've designed their own desktop to do that particular thing, whatever it happens to be. So the desktop runs on top of the operating system, but in Linux especially, there's this thing called a terminal. And what the terminal is it kind of sits in between the GUI and the actual hardware, the operating system itself. And so the terminal allows me as a computer user or a programmer or a hacker or a network administrator, it allows me direct access to the operating system without worrying about the GUI. So I don't need, so for example, when you go to educateus.us, you're going to a website or a web server. That web server doesn't have a GUI on it. It's actually, all it is the Linux operating system with a program running in it that's for the web server. So the web server itself, and then it's got some database servers that run in it to talk to a database so it knows who you are and what kind of content is on the website, all that kind of stuff. But there is no graphical, like I don't have a mouse. I can't point to something in Linux on a web server and tell it to go open up the address book, for example. None of that exists in that environment. So we need some way to be able to talk to the server, or in this case we're going to be talking to our Raspberry 4. We need some way to be able to talk to it without a graphical user interface. And so the terminal is what we do to do that. And we're not going to get into a lot of depth today as far as all the different things that you can do in the terminal, but I do want to give you a really quick overview of what the terminal is and some commands that you can run in it to kind of see what we're looking at. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look up here at our terminal, and this the little black icon with the greater than sign that shows up on it. And so when we open this up, I'm going to maximize this window, and we do that with the little arrow over here on the side, and that gets it the full screen. And then what I want to do is I want to show the difference between looking at files and folders, and in the next video we're going to get into more detail on files and folders and kind of hopefully explain exactly what we're looking at when we're talking about all this stuff. But if I open up this file explorer, you can see that right now I am in the home folder. So we're in my home folder, and then inside of here we have a folder called Pi, so this is the root folder, this is a home folder. Inside the home folder is another folder called Pi, because that's the username that I'm logged in as right now. In a later video we'll actually learn how to create users and all that kind of stuff, but right now I'm the Pi user. And then inside of my Pi folder I have a list of all of these folders that are on the hard drive. So I'm going to flip over here to our terminal, and I want to see how would I know that looking at this terminal. And so the first command, again, we have the operating system and we have a bunch of programs that run on that operating system, and all of the commands that you're seeing me type now are actual commands that run inside of Linux. And so if I type pwd, that stands for print the working directory, print working directory. And so we're going to hit enter, and you can see right now we are in the home Pi folder. And so if we switch back over here to this guy, that means that we are down here in the home folder, and then you'll notice there's a Pi folder here, and then we are actually in the Pi folder. So if we're really in that folder, we should see all of the things that we see over here in this Explorer, or in this file browser. And so to see the files that are actually on the hard drive, we're going to issue another command, and we're going to type in ls for list, and we're going to hit the enter key. Now you'll notice I have these blue files or folders, and then we have 2 images in here. If we flip back over here to our graphical interface, you can see we have 2 images, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 folders. And so if we look back over here, we have 9 folders. And so we are actually looking at the same location on the hard drive between the File Explorer, which is a GUI application, and a terminal, which is not a GUI application. There's nothing graphical about a terminal. It's just a text. You can kind of think of it as a way for me to look inside the computer without actually having a bunch of GUI, a bunch of frames and windows and colors and all the other stuff around me. So now, in the File Explorer, if we flip back over here, let's say that I want to go into this videos folder. Well, that's pretty simple. All we're going to do is double click on videos, and now we're inside of that folder. So I'm going to flip back over here, and the question is, well, you can see the videos folder, it's right here, but how do I go into that folder? Right now we know the command pwd to show me where I'm currently at, and we know the command ls to give me a listing of the things that are in that directory, but I don't know how to move. So these are all directories. So the cd is change directory. That gives me the ability to move into another folder. And if I type in videos, hit the enter key, now we know that we have an ls command. So we're going to hit ls and hit enter, and you see there's nothing here. Well, to prove that I'm actually here, I'm going to use another command, and we're going to type touch hello.txt. The touch command is another program, and what it does is it creates an empty file. So we're going to be creating an empty file called hello.txt or txt. And so now if we do an ls, you can see that we have hello.txt in this folder. Well, also, if we flip back over here to our graphical interchange window, you can see that we have home Pi videos. So we're in this folder, and there is hello.txt. So if I came over here to the graphical window and I told it to delete that particular file, and then we jump back over here and we do an ls, you'll notice the file's gone. And so the terminal, and we're going to be using the terminal a lot when we're learning how to do different projects and things, so it's very important to understand what the terminal does and how to use it. So we know how to open it. We click the button at the top and we can open it. We know how to change directories with cd. pwd is a print working directory. ls gives us a list. But ls, for example, can do a lot of other things. So the question is well, okay, how do I learn what other things ls can do? Now you could go to Google and search for Linux ls command, or we can just from right here in Windows type man for manual pages. So it's think of it as a book. We're doing man ls, and that gives me a whole lot of information about the ls command and the different things that it's capable of doing. So if I look down here, I've got ls-a gives me a list of everything in the folder. And if I scroll down a little bit farther, you'll see that there is an L command down here to give me a long list, a long format of that particular command, so that I'm getting all the dates and times and sizes and all that kind of stuff. So let's quit out of there and let's type in ls-al. Show me everything, all, and a long list, L. And so we're going to hit enter, and there's nothing here. So we're going to do a touch hello.txt, and we're going to do it again. And now you can see that the file size is 0. The name is hello.txt, and it was created on September the 12th at 1520. And we're in military time on the computer, so 1520 is actually 3:20 in the afternoon in our time zone. So that kind of gives me the ability, with just those 3 commands, I can move all around the hard drive and do all kinds of different things, which we're going to be learning in other videos. But right now, the primary thing is how do you open the terminal, and what is the difference between working inside of a terminal and working inside of a graphical user interface. A GUI is the proper term for that. And so by being in the terminal, I have access to everything. I can run commands, I can change the properties on the computer, I can do all kinds of things at the command prompt, some of which you can't do inside of a GUI, because in order for the GUI to work, somebody has to go write an actual application to do a certain thing. And there aren't applications, there are not GUI applications for every single thing that you could do on that computer. So learning the terminal, the commands that you can run from the terminal, gives you a whole lot more power. And do you know what you call a person that has full access to the computer? You call them super user, or in the Linux world, you call them the root operator. They are the root, the bottom of the tree. They are the guy that knows everything, or that can do everything on that particular computer. So when you see the next hacking TV show or movie, and you see somebody talking about getting root access to the system, that's what they're talking about, is being able to get the super user access at a terminal prompt to be able to do anything you want to do on that particular computer.